You are listening to the We Are West Ham podcast with me, Will Pugh, and James Jones. Seagulls eat your heart out. 11 years, 12 failed attempts later, and West Ham United have finally beaten Brighton HOVE ALBION. No more swooping down from the skies to pluck away 3 points from the Hammers, as Seagulls do with chips on the seafront. I'm not sure how good of an analogy that was, but I can tell you one thing for free. The feeling of relief, sweet, sweet relief that West Ham United have finally beaten Brighton in a competition that matters is basically uncomparable. James Jones, I'm delighted to say, joins me to discuss it. West Ham 3, Brighton 1 at the AMEX, doing it away as well, Jonesy. Absolutely lovely. James Ward-Prowse getting off the mark, 19 minutes in. Jared Bowen with an absolutely sublime finish. And if you'd seen that from Lionel Messi or Ian Robin in his heyday, everyone would have been fawning all over the world for such a goal. It was an absolute gem. Mikel Antonio, of all people, makes it 3-0, carries on his sensational goal-scoring run before Pascal Gross tried to make it a nervy ending for the Hammers 9 minutes from time, but it wasn't to be. We've finally got a win. A great performance from Alphonse Areola. Jonesy, talk to me. God, thank God for that, finally.
Yeah, it's relief more than anything. And I have to admit, I'm still in complete and utter shock. Not just for the Brighton win, but for the start of the season. We went into this season, didn't we? We were going, we've lost Declan Rice. We haven't really replaced him. We've taken forever to buy anyone in the window. We've got Chelsea to play. Brighton's coming up. Only opportunity for points is against Bournemouth. Then we only draw at Bournemouth, and it's like, oh my God, it's going to be the longest season in the world. Now we're top of the league Saturday night. Top of the league after 3 games. We almost stayed top of the league for an entire week. If Man City hadn't got that late winner against Sheffield United, we'd have been up there for an entire week. So, yeah, hunky-dory. And it's topped off by the fact that we've finally beaten that lot down on the south coast. And do you know what? I know we've always said, we don't really, we're not disrespecting Brighton, but it's a bit ridiculous that we haven't beat them. But I'm 100% quite comfortable for disrespecting Brighton moving forward. Their fans have become incredibly unbearable.
Yeah.
Comments on a recent comment on our, I think it was our opposition view with Brighton with Joe last week. It's a Brighton fan going, the reason why you haven't beaten us is because it's tactics. We're in far superior tactics. We've got a manager that knows what he's doing. You haven't got a manager. Your manager doesn't know what he's doing. That's why you've never beaten us. It's not a game of chance. It's the fact that we're tactically better than you. So then obviously we beat them. Right. So then we beaten them. So Saturday night I went on there and replied to tactics with the thumbs up emoji. And he's come back at me and he's gone, that's going to be your biggest achievement. If my team played the style of football you were playing, I'd find another team to support. It's a disgrace. Mate, you're making yourself look like a bit of an idiot now. So, and it's not the only one. It's been all over social media. Brighton fans, just because their team finished 6th last season, believe now that they're the greatest team since 1970s Brazil. It's not true. They need to get back in their box. And I'm so glad we were the team to put them back in their box. Happy days. See you later, Seagulls.
Yeah. To me, you know what? I find really, really funny as well that this thing, I didn't even mention the fact, even if we'd have stayed top of the league for a week, wouldn't have mentioned that in the intro. It wouldn't have West Ham being top of the Premier League still wouldn't have ranked as highly as beating Brighton. We could finish top of the Premier League after 38 games this season, and if we hadn't beaten Brighton again, I'd have still been annoyed. But I thought the weird thing that of the whole thing is how it sort of produced this strange union with Chelsea fans who also have developed a hatred of Brighton. It appears over the Caicedo thing. And I put up off the podcast the other day, and it was some really, really angry bloke, right? Hang on. No, so I'm just going through our Twitter replies because they did sort of get a bit. Here we go. Right. So the initial tweet was from an account called Brighton Bubble, whatever that is. I'm not really sure whether that's no. Anyway, Brighton Bubble, whatever it is. Anyway, well done to West Ham. Their game plan worked perfectly. Not much we can do against 11 behind the ball. Very similar to Everton at home last season. Feel sorry for Verbruggen, the goalkeeper. The goals weren't his fault, and he shouldn't lose his place next week. We'll bounce back, right? And I just replied and said, "You went unbeaten against us for 11 years and 12 games, and you're still bitter." It's tweets like this which make me even happier with finally beating you. Proper small club mentality, which is so silly because you're actually doing quite well these days. And that's not really in my nature. But I find it hilarious. Like, because for me, now we've beaten them, there was no sense of triumph afterwards, really. Like, it's good that we've got the 3 points and we're doing well, but it just feels like, and I've definitely used this analogy before around the Brighton situation, it feels like if you pass your driving test on the 11th time of asking, there's no triumph there. No one's going, "Oh, well done, quality." Like, really, should be really proud of yourself. They're going, "Yeah,
it's more like, about time, right?" Yeah,
exactly. And that's what I'd be if you were like a Brighton fan. Now I'd be sitting there going, "Yeah, all right, lads, calm down. Like, why you've beaten us once in 13 attempts? Like, we still have bragging rights for the next decade, basically." Yeah, I think it's even if we beat Brighton in every game, I think we need to beat them in every game for about 4.5 years every time we play them to get even with them points wise. Like, for us to take the same amount of points as they've taken off us over the past 11 years, yeah, we need to beat them every game.
Five wins. 5 wins.
Is that what it is? Didn't they?
They beat us 6 times, and we've drawn 6
times. Drawn 6 times as well, isn't it? Oh, right, fine, yeah.
Yes, we've beaten them once. We need 5 more wins.
Yeah, so what? 2.5? Yeah, 2.5 more seasons then. Yeah, I forgot that we also get a point when we draw. But yeah, and I honestly, I just, but they're so angry about it, so angry about it, and I just think it's really weird. I think maybe it's because their team have been good for a bit. I don't think it is that. I think it's chip on the shoulder stuff, don't you? Like, sort of, getting a bit tetchy about clubs taking the mickey out of them. There's even a podcast called Teams Like Brighton.
No,
they just don't. I just want people to respect them more.
Given some of the comments that I've seen from, a particular one on our YouTube video, it's I genuinely think that they have got this. They believe that they are better than they are because of the style of football that they played, and it doesn't help the fact that the media are raving about them every 5 minutes, going, "Oh, Brighton are great! Look how good Brighton are! Fantastic!
They are good,
one of the best managers we've ever seen." Oh, yeah, it's like, look, they're buying players from South America for 4 million quid, then selling for 100 million quid 2 years later. What a great football club! And to be fair, a lot of those comments are warranted, and a lot of those, people bigging them up are warranted. But fans have allowed it to get to their heads. So then when they lose, you want at home to West Ham and get out tacticked by David Moyes, who they will perceive as not worthy of even walking inside the AMEX because he doesn't play a particular brand of football. Like they're struggling to really understand how they've lost at home to a team that counter attacks as opposed to enjoys playing with the ball. And therefore have completely their minds are completely blown that actually there is another style of football to be played. It can be successful and can work against their style of football. And yeah, they're struggling to really come to terms with that fact. And their only way of coping with it is become even more arrogant and more self-centered, and basically tell us that we shouldn't really like West Ham, even though we have supported West Ham our entire lives because we play a particular brand of football.
Yeah.
Do not support your football team because we don't like the way you play. So yeah.
Well, now Brighton have got a crack at the Europa League this year. I assume they'll at least be getting to the semi-finals. I assume because they're
no, they're winning it apparently, aren't they? They're going to go and win it. They're best since 1970 Brazil.
Champions League next season as well. No, look, It is brilliant, and I think the whole way along, I don't know. It just seems odd to beat a team or like fail to lose, not lose against a team for more than a decade, and when it does inevitably happen, with some really good goals from West Ham as well, and an excellent goalkeeping performance from us. Like, this is the best Brighton, probably the best Brighton team we've played in the entire time we've failed to beat them. Any team that doesn't have Glenn Murray in it,
it's ridiculous.
is, yeah. No, that's I think it's really funny. Look, like I say, there's no triumph in it for me. It's just not like reveling in it. I'm just like, I'm glad that's out of the way, because I just wasn't enjoying it anymore. It wasn't funny. It was boring talking about it. It was just ridiculous and annoying. I saw no humor. I haven't seen any humor in it for about 2 seasons now. So having to keep doing the podcast, I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, yeah, I know we haven't beaten Brighton, haha. Because then even when we do, there still wouldn't be any triumph in it. Like, there was nothing good to be had out of it anymore. It genuinely was like taking your driving test for the 14th time, and you're just like, I don't want to talk about it. It's something I've got to do. And if I pass, it's still not good either. But look, excellent start. West Ham unbeaten after 3 games. Some sensational goals from Jared Bowen, Antonio, James Ward-Prowse. Wouldn't say that was sensational, a bit fortunate there. Well then, Jonesy, 3-1 at the AMEX Stadium. James Ward-Prowse getting his first West Ham goal. He, again, proper making me look silly. Told you how he weren't really going to fit in, didn't I? It's all very well being good at set pieces. But, that's not going to be enough. Well, first week, he gets 2 assists, one from a set piece, one from open play. And then in a 3-1 win over Chelsea. And then, as if I didn't feel stupid enough, he then decides to get his first West Ham goal and does that from open play too. I think, not to save face too much here, but fairly fortunate. 19 minutes in, ball gets played through to him. He's sort of, I don't know what he tried to do. Sort of take it round the goalie, got a little bit of fortune with it falling straight back into his path, and then he knocks it into the back of an empty net. Jared Bowen with an absolute wizard's goal later on, and then Mikel Antonio making it 3-0 on 63 minutes before Pascal Gross's consolation. Loads to chat about. Alphonse Areola was absolutely sensational. Where do you want to start?
Well, I think first and foremost, we're not missing Declan Rice at all, and I think that is largely down to James Ward-Prowse. But I think he has been a fantastic addition. People bang on about James Maddison being the value for money signing of the summer in the Premier League. Well, you've got to look at James Ward-Prowse as well as being definitely up there. I know he's only played 2 games, but the impact he's had, the boots he's had to fill, and the impact he's had, there isn't a better signing, or definitely isn't a better signing in the Premier League so far. I think he's been outstanding against Brighton. He was intercepting play. He was stopping Brighton from playing in midfield. He was getting forward with the ball. He was just absolutely superb. And then obviously capped off with a goal. And, he started that move. He played the ball out to Antonio out on the left. And then bust the gut to get in the box. Yes, he was a little bit fortunate. His first attempt was blocked. But then it landed in front of him. But I think he created his own luck with the way that he started the move and finished it off. So, yeah, fantastic signing. I thought Alvarez looked good. I know he was probably playing a little out of position in a back 5. And then kind of, I don't know what he was. He was almost like it definitely wasn't in his best position, but I thought he had a good game. Looks very, very assured. No worries with him. But you mentioned it, Areola. If it's not for him, we get battered there. We lose that game 7-3. That guy, some of the saves. And a few weeks ago, you were having a little bit of a moan about the fact that Areola was in the number 1 spot. And surely that game and the fact he's so dependent against Chelsea shows that he is a worthy number 1. And Moyes did come out and say after, look, it was a difficult position, and Fabianski had done nothing wrong, but we felt like it was the right time for Areola to come in and prove that he can be our number one goalkeeper. And what those last two games, he's proven that he can be our number one, and he will be our number one. Like, just class shot stopping, and he's done a lot of penalty saving practice as well, clearly. So, yeah, for me, those are my two highlights of the Brighton game. The fact that Areola's just his world-class goalkeeping performance, and the fact that it's very obvious that the worries of Declan Rice leaving are how are we going to fill his boots. James Ward-Prowse isn't the right guy. Completely squashed for me. We're not going to miss him. James Ward-Prowse is a really, really good replacement, and that's a really, really good positive to take into the rest of the season for me.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. And look, I think it's one of them where, especially with the business we've done, all right, albeit later on in the window, right? And that's what sparks up most of the clickbait merchants on Twitter, isn't it? You know, the fact that you don't do every single bit of your transfer business on day one of the transfer window is like, it's just proof of a catastrophically run club. And the fact of the matter is, A, these deals take ages to put together, and B, it enhances a club's it's part of the negotiation, isn't it, to push as far as these things can go. The longer it goes on, the more perhaps a selling club just want it done, so they might accept a little bit less money. Like, there's more elements to all this than is often made out. But even we succumbed to it, didn't we? The podcast before the first game of the season, and even afterwards, you sort of thought, oh, come on, like, the squad looks weaker pretty much on day one of the season. But all of a sudden now, especially with Kudus as well, that's exactly what I was saying to you, right? Is that we needed this summer quality, not quantity. And I think that is precisely what we've got. Again, happy to seemingly be proved wrong on James Ward-Prowse. Delighted that's happening. And I think that's what's happening now, because you looked at our bench, wasn't it, on the opening day of the season? The starting 11 was okay, but you looked at the bench and you thought, it's like a few sort of young squad players in there. No one is really going to come on and have an impact. And all of a sudden now, if Kudus comes in and he bumps Benrahma down to the bench, that's another player who is going to come on and not have an impact. I'm joking, of course, but that is that you'd rather have someone like Benrahma on the bench, wouldn't you, than when we had, I don't know if Flynn Downs was still there, but Flynn Downs and Danny Ings and Divan Mabama, who's showing promise, of course, but I don't know if Connor Coventry was even on the bench as well. But you sort of thought, come on, that's just players who are there, that they're just bodies rather than players who can make an impact. So yeah, that's really, really positive from James Ward-Prowse. Like you mentioned, I think Alvarez looks decent already. Michail Antonio as well then just seems to be finding his goal scoring form. Another sensational finish that was. It did sort of make me laugh that he sort of did his usual, didn't he, of the ball bounced off of him in a completely odd direction, which completely bamboozled the defender as well as himself before he regained control of the thing and blasted it in the bottom left corner. How do you feel about that, other than using it as an opportunity to laugh at me? Do you think it's sustainable, or because I can just see it sort of lulling Moyes into a false sense of security? We don't sign a striker by the end of the window, and then once the window's shut, 2 weeks after, Michail Antonio goes back to what we saw from him of most of last season, and then we got to wait till January before we can get anyone in up front.
It is 100% unsustainable to go for another season with Michail Antonio and Danny Ings as your only strike options. It is not sustainable.
I'm glad you said that.
He's had a brilliant start to the season. I think he's been really, really good. He's good against Brighton. Fully deserved his goal. Said technically did get the assist for James Ward-Prowse. Obviously, it wasn't actually given to him, but it was technically his assist. So yeah. A good performance against Chelsea as well. So at the moment, you go, yeah, okay, he's had a good start to the season and you're happy with him. But the fact is that he's in his early 30s. He's got dodgy hamstrings. We know that. He has kept himself fit over the last couple of seasons. But, you don't know when his hamstring's going to go
Hamstrings
again.
are the least of his worries, mate, aren't they?
Well, I mean, we just know that he's likely to get injured at some point. He's going to get injured, and that's not his fault. It's just it's just the way that he is, and that's just the way his career's gone. And as he's getting older, he's a little bit more susceptible to them. But I did read this morning that our saviour, Tim Steepton, is flying apparently on his way out to Brazil now to buy a striker. So maybe we won't have that problem. But
who is the striker?
I can't remember his name. I don't know who his name is, but he's a young Brazilian
cutting edge,
striker.
Informative podcast in there from the We Are West Ham duo.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I was just literally just kind of flicking through Twitter very early this morning.
I'm not mugging you off, mate. To be fair, because I did see it on Twitter. I haven't come prepared with his name either.
He's the geezer's just flying all around the world just trying to buy his players, and I've got a lot of respect for that. It's about time someone did that. So David Sullivan wasn't going to do it, was he? So
quite. What do you make of the new Tim Steidten song?
I haven't heard it.
Have you heard that?
Oh, the one that goes to Amsterdam.
Yeah, smokes some marijuana. And he came back with Alvarez and a superstar from Ghana.
Like it.
Love it.
Like it.
Yeah, it's very decent. Very decent.
He's working wonders, though, isn't he? Flying around the world trying to buy us some decent players. And now we're all waiting for his little plane, his private jet photos with the new players. I saw someone go, if Tim asks you to get on a plane, you get on. And pictures of him, Hudos and Mavropanos and all that. So all looking good.
Right, I'm still trying to look for this Brazilian striker, mate. Do we sort of know? I think he's a youngster, isn't he?
He's a youngster, yeah.
Yuri Alberto. There you go. Yuri Alberto. I think the geek. And I've just seen one video of him on Twitter where he looks absolutely sensational. I think it might have been the one good bit of skill he's done in 3 years.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's like, how many times have we bought a player from South America and he's just ended up being in the youth team for 3 years and then ended up playing for Luton or something like that, or like
Louisiana energy, you mean?
Yes, Louisiana. When he scored the other day for the development squad, the 21s. So like he's getting game time.
Mate, I've actually seen him play in person, and
he does exist.
And he scored an own goal. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I don't know. You can never really tell with the talent with these players.
Plays for Corinthians. Last striker we bought from Corinthians, Carlitos Alberto Tevez. I don't even know if his middle name is Alberto, to be honest. But Carlos Tevez
also landed us in a hell of a lot of trouble.
Did it? Yeah, did it? Hell, it was one of the most iconic.
God knows how many millions. Sheffield United will kick off if we sign another one from Corinthians, surely.
Yeah, that'd be funny, wouldn't it? Sign Yuri Alberto, and then he sends him down, just like same old situation again 10 years later.
I love it.
But look, it is positive stuff. We've got Luton on Friday, and I'm really pleased. I'm really pleased for David Moyes, and never has it been more apparent and obvious, Jonesy, what the point I was making last week about most West Ham fans aren't actually, they might be on Twitter, but they're not, spewing out negative content into the West Ham Twitter sphere. The actual people in the away end and in the stands who pay their money and go and watch the team every week, on the whole, I'm not saying none of them have negative thoughts about David Moyes. Obviously a few of them do, but the We've Got Super David Moyes song was being belted out from the away end at the weekend, wasn't it? Like there's still clear support there. We're third in the league, and I think I've decided, Jonesy, that I think we need to ignore more of that stuff a bit more, because it's silly, isn't it? It's silly. You get dragged into this feeling of negativity and stuff. And the fact of the matter is that, you know, we're unbeaten in the first 3 games of the season. We've actually signed some really decent players, albeit a little bit later in the window than some people would have liked. And our football club is so much more stable than it's been for the majority of our lives. And there's a zero chance that we're going down this season. And I think, you know, it's a great start to the campaign. We've finally beaten Brighton. That monkey's off our back. European football coming up again. The draw for the Europa Leagues this week, I believe, on the Friday, is it?
Friday.
Yeah. Like, you know, happy days, mate. Quality.
I think I agree with what you're saying with the whole David Moyes thing, and I understand why there was quite a lot of negativity early on in the summer and potentially after the Bournemouth game. You know, you're looking at it. He's in his last year of his contracts. By the Bournemouth game, we'd barely done any business, and it was like we've just lost our captain. We've got all this money now. Everyone knows we've got all this money, and you still haven't bought anyone. You haven't bought anyone of note. We've seen us beaten to deals by other clubs. He's in last year of his contract, and the one game of our opening 3 that we thought was winnable, we haven't won. And then you go, okay, we've got Chelsea at home and Brighton away, and everyone's going, this isn't going to end well. You know, we're going to go into the international break. But especially given it's Luton's first home game, that's going to be a difficult game. We could go in the international break with 1 point. That puts more pressure on it. Are we going to attract anyone if players are coming and signing us for us when we're in the bottom 3? I understand all of that. But the fact is that, I mean, we mentioned it last week, David Moyes just finds a way. He finds a way. He makes it work. He has done since he got back, came back. He did it in his first spell. He found a way to keep us up. Second spell, he's found a way to keep this club going on an upward trajectory. Okay, the Premier League performance last season wasn't great, but the fact is we've been absolutely outstanding for coming into this 4th season now. And people forget that. Two top 7 finishes in the Premier League, a Europa League semi-final, winning the Conference League, and for 24 hours we were top of the Premier League. Okay, it was after 3 games, we were top of the Premier League. In a season where people wrote us off after 1 game, even before the ball was kicked, people were writing us off, going, David Moyes will be sacked by Christmas. The fact is, we're not. We've just signed Mohamed Kudus, signed Alvarez, James Ward-Prowse looking like an absolute steal at 30 million quid. Nobody mentioned Mavropanos yet. I think that's a good signing for 18 million quid. So the business has been great. There's no reason to be negative anymore. We've got a lot to be positive about, and a lot to be excited about as well. And just the fact that we've beaten Brighton as well just adds the cherry on top of the cake, really, doesn't it?
Exactly that, mate. Look, 3-1 victory away from home, 2nd in the Premier League. At least, you know, we can just pause some of the negativity and some of the moaning for now. You'd like to think that was the case, but clearly I think there's still a few out there who were genuinely annoyed that when West Ham win games because it doesn't suit their Moyes out agenda. But hey, we're not people in that bracket, Jonesy. West Ham are flying high. We've got the Europa League draw this Friday, which is exciting. A hopefully winnable game against Luton this Friday night as well at Kenilworth Road. That promises to be a decent occasion. They've conceded 7 goals in their 2 games so far. So fingers crossed West Ham can add to that haul.